person, but you'd be, I think that's something that's really interesting that should be challenged. But with eggs, we're going to get into eggs later because we have to, that for some people are sensitivities, so just know that. Are you eating more and enjoying it less? Eating carbohydrates, especially refined and processed carbohydrates such as white bread, white pasta, and refined cereals, which turn to sugar, raises insulin. Insulin is a fat storing, hunger-causing hormone. So eating refined carbohydrates can make you fat. Have you ever heard a story of someone who I've come across in my life people that I've met that have been drug addicts. And you know, and one thing that I think was always the same is that the drug addict is constantly trying to relive his first experience with that drug. But the more and more he gets into it, the farther away he gets from that pleasure, that sense of euphoria that he got from or she got from that first experience. It's the same thing with this, with carbohydrates. I mean, the more and more we consume, the more we need it, and the less we're satisfied. And that's the kind of point to this slide. Are you eating more and enjoying it less? Let me tell you, how many of you are at the stage right now where you feel good? You're in the program, and now you're feeling really good. Okay, all right, remember this. There is no cheesecake factory, no brownie, no lasagna, no Donato's pizza that will make you feel better than the way you feel right now. And that's something we always need to remember. And this is when you go to that place, when you're like, I want this, always remember the reality of this right now, where you are right now. There's no food out there that's going to make you feel this good. This really, really this good. And it's the idea of having like peace in the storm. You know, it's that feeling that even though, yes, you're a little limited, you have to say no to people, like special invitations, or maybe you have, you know, special things you have to navigate around. Understand the juice is worth the squeeze. And that's where you are right now, okay? Today, the average American eats more than 200 pounds of sugar per person per year. Today, people eat upwards of 55 pounds of fats and oils, more than 300 cans of soft drinks, 50 pounds of cakes and cookies, and 20 gallons of ice cream. This is probably a typical American. 100 years ago, heart attacks were practically unheard of in the United States. But 100 years ago, people ate fresh whole foods, which included meat and butter. However, they didn't eat processed foods. We haven't gotten better, we've gotten worse. So these are 4 deadly whites, so-called foods to avoid: white sugar, white salt, milk, and enriched flour. We call this white trash because this is what's really trashing our bodies. White sugar, white salt, milk. And here's, you know, I think you get this, okay? We've grown up hearing about salt. Actually, with salt, what I would recommend you use, I mean, I think salt is great. Celtic sea salt. I mean, I'm on a diet right now, preparing for a bodybuilding show, and I'm still salting my foods, but with Celtic sea salt, because it keeps me hydrated. I sweat a lot during my workouts, and the more you sweat, the more you're going to need of it. So I use a generous amount, but to season foods, you can use Celtic sea salt. You know, obviously your activity level is going to dictate how much as well, how much you sweat, but athletes need that. But white salt is what we get in the grocery store. That's not what you want. And by the way, it's not a good source of iodine. Don't ever be led to believe that. There's so much research that shows that the iodine in our table salt does very little as far as for the needs we have for iodine. So,
what's the question?
Oh, sorry.
What about the pink salt?
The what?
Himalayan.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing with these salts, these special salts like Celtic sea salt, they're rich in minerals. So it's very good. It's very good. That's what you want to be consuming. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Some in the grocery store, like even Morton's now has sea salt. Are they good and bad? I mean, I know the expensive salt. I got that too, but
I'm a little biased to like the big companies like that because they're gonna, you know, their number one thing is profit. But I usually try to get the one at Whole Foods that says Celtic sea salt. It's a little more, but even how I'm consuming salt, it'll last me like 2 months, you know, and I eat 8 meals a day, so I mean, I use it in a good amount of it. So, you know, we need sodium, by the way. We need it just for muscle contraction, to help with osmotic pressure, like water where it should be. You get it, by the way, a lot in eggs. It's something that very few people know. Eggs are a pretty good source of sodium. Yeah. But milk is a common question. Let me just right now establish this. Milk is not a good source of calcium. Not a good source. And dairy in general is not a good source. The way, in the form in which is available to us in grocery stores. It's not a good form of calcium. Green leafy vegetables, much better source of calcium. And then, when you take milk and make it skim milk, now we've got something even worse, which, by the way, is more fattening than whole milk. You go, yes, and I'll explain here in a second why, but when this really started really caused me some confusion was because my boss, Tim, went to have like a cow share program where we'd go to this farm and they would take turns going up there and they'd bring back raw milk. Well, one of the things that they have pigs there, and one of the things the farmer said is, he said, like, we use the skim milk for fattening the pigs. It fattens them more than anything else. And here's the reason why. When you extract fat from a food and you leave carbohydrates, what do you have? An insulin response. A very steep insulin response. So remember, I said before, what are the things that slow down that insulin response? Fiber, protein, and fats. Okay.
Would that be true then also of the fat cheeses and
Yeah. Usually anything, remember the years where low fat was a popular thing? What did you see in their carbohydrate content was much higher. They substituted with other things. So, and enriched flour. The amazing thing about this, the marketing, enriched. Why wouldn't we want something that's enriched, right? And we want to get more for our buck, so enriched flour is better than regular flour. Not true. Here's what they do. They take out what's living in that flour and replace it with something not living that's not going to rot. So what they do, and this is often, it's often used kind of as a joke, the difference between cornflakes and Total, 2 cents worth of vitamins that are sprayed on it, but you're paying a lot more for the Total. It's enriched. That's it, and it's sold all the time. And you know, parents that are like really trying to do well for their kids, oh, healthy choice, Total. What they're getting is enriched food. Everything is so enriched when the food itself has plenty of nutrients in it, but we're having to replace it and give more because the only way we're going to make it stand on the shelf for a long period of time is taking out everything that is nutritious and substituting it with the synthetic. And that's how we're able to have a cheeseburger sit on a counter for 5 years. Enriched. Avoid trans fatty acids. Margarine. How many times, I mean, we heard this, oh, you know, years ago, margarine is better than butter, margarine is better than butter. Many people grew up hearing that. I was kind of I still remember that as well, 30 years ago. Partially hydrogenated oils found in thousands of commercial foods. These have been linked to so many things from cancer, cardiovascular disease. This is what you want to stay away from. These have been modified. They've been processed chemically. Minerals, whole food sources, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, including trace minerals, enzymes. This is what we're getting when we're eating whole food sources. We're eating closer to nature. So here's some, I just got a couple slides real quick on where you would get some of these vitamins that are so popular and we're told we need, and they're so good for this and that. Vitamin A, raw milk, not just the milk we get, but raw milk. Egg yolks, cheese, beef liver, fish, especially salmon and yogurt, and in vegetarian sources, carrots, spinach, kale, asparagus, alfalfa. Recognize some things that are in the SP Complete and in the Purification program. the vitamin B full complex, unrefined whole grain cereals, brewer's yeast, beef liver, sardines. By the way, sardines very low in, for those of you that are concerned about mercury, sardines are very low in mercury. Peanuts, molasses, eggs, tuna, wheat germ, sunflower seeds, red meat, leafy greens. Citrus fruits for vitamin C, berries, melons, green leafy vegetables, tomatoes, red peppers, rose hips. Vitamin D. You know, there's a big craze right now for vitamin D. You need they're throwing crazy amounts at people. Natural sunlight. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of that around here. So there's other ways. Meat, fish oil, and fish. Egg yolks. Again, egg yolks. Butter. Yeah, so also there's another, kelp is, I think, the only, I believe kelp is the only vegetable source, it's a sea vegetable, but a vegetable source of vitamin D. Very low amount, but it's in there. It's in the product, trace minerals B12. So, good, kind of an interesting little tidbit there. Vitamin E. Wheat germ and wheat germ oil. You know that everything that we know about vitamin E, years ago, when they discovered this vitamin E, the source that they used was wheat germ oil. And then later, now it's like D-alpha tocopherol for many years. That's what the government defines as vitamin E. Unrefined, expeller pressed vegetable or seed oils, avocado, whole wheat, soy, and this is unprocessed soy, so like soy, spinach, eggs, whole grain cereals, almonds. For calcium, milk, again if it's raw milk, cheese, cottage cheese, yogurt, beef liver, green leafy vegetables, soybeans, wheat germ, tofu. But with tofu you get some calcium, but you get the processing as well. So I would, although it is a source, that would be something that I would stay away from. With soy, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Sesame seeds, almonds, dried beans, and broccoli. What does natural and organic mean? According to the FDA, natural, anything that ultimately comes from nature, including chemicals, since they ultimately come from nature. So I could put something, sell something and package it as natural, even though I've taken it through, I don't know, 10, 15 chemical processes in a lab and used acids during those processes, but it's still natural. And that is, you know, the commercials I mentioned with high fructose corn syrup, that's what they were doing. They were calling it natural, even though it's so far removed from natural that it has nothing to do with it. And then organic. And I'm very careful to talk about this because I don't want to scare you away from organic. Organic is the best choice, but there's something even better, and I'll talk about that in a second. Better than organic. Organic, anything that contains a carbon molecule. DET has a carbon base. So organic is really, you know, when you study organic chemistry, it's just all you're studying is something that has that C in it, that carbon molecule in it. So it gets a little fuzzy. Organic is good, but you know what's better than organic? Close to nature. So you know, and this is where I run into problems, and I had this problem with my daughter's mom because it's organic, it's okay, here's a cereal, it's Cheerios, but it's organic, it's good. You know, when you've got a choice between organic Cheerios and just plain Kroger brand oats, the oats are going to be a better choice. Okay? You see, there's less in there, it's closer to nature. And so that's why, again, this is a course where you learn this, because there's nothing where it's across the board, organic is always the best thing, although organic is a better choice. Now when we're getting into oats and we're comparing oats, organic oats are going to be better than Kroger oats, you know. But we want to stay as close to nature as possible. So is it natural for tilapia to be swimming around in some feces and all that? That's farm-raised tilapia.